My dad's revenge for not letting him name my baby? Betrayal.
I am 31 years old and just wrapped up the naming ceremony for my newborn daughter.
Let me start by giving you a little background about my father.
He walked out on my mom more than 3 times over the years. The last time he left us, I was in my second year of college. I had to work incredibly hard to get decent grades, land a solid job, and make enough money to support my mom. Eventually, I got hired by a reputable company, moved up to a good position, and started earning well. When my husband, who is also 31, came into my life through an arranged marriage proposal, I found out that he came from a wealthy background.
His father and his older stepbrother are both chief executive officers. His biological sister is a lawyer.
He has a supportive stepmother, a teenage half-sister, and he himself runs a company as its chief executive. My mother was hesitant about the match at first, but my mother-in-law told her that she loved me and was happy to move forward with the engagement. My mom was honest and told his entire family about my father and the history. Despite knowing everything, they still accepted me, and a week later we were engaged. A year after that, I married my husband and we went on a 1-month honeymoon. When I was expecting my first child, a boy, my father suddenly came back. For several months, my mom's relatives tried to push them to get back together. They believed being separated was not appropriate in our society, especially since they were about to become grandparents.
My dad started visiting me.
I was not ready to reconnect with him or let him near my son, but my husband encouraged me to give him a chance.
I agreed eventually and began speaking to him again.
He acted excited about becoming a grandfather, but it was clear he did not like my husband.
I thought maybe, just maybe, things could improve. That was until he brought up naming our son.
My husband and I had already planned to choose a name that had something to do with the ocean or water.
We had ideas picked out. My father did not like our choice and insisted on naming the baby himself.
It turned into a big argument. In the end, he said if he could not choose the name, he would not attend the naming ceremony. That turned into a nasty phone call. I ended up hanging up and went ahead with the ceremony without him.
We gave our son the name we had already decided on. Fast forward to my second pregnancy. This time, my father demanded to choose the name for my daughter.
My mom argued with him, saying that the decision should be ours. At the ceremony, with my dad present this time, he announced a name of his own choosing in front of everyone instead of using the name we had picked.
I was furious. After the guests had all left, I asked him to step into the room with me.
I raised my voice and asked why he would go against our decision. He told me I was being selfish by not accepting the name he wanted. The name he came up with was terrible, and I knew it would lead to my daughter being teased in school. I told him to get out and went to my room, wondering if I had overreacted. In our culture, grandparents often get to name their grandkids, but only with the consent of the parents. Elders are allowed to suggest names, sure, but the parents have the final say. My father's name suggestion was meaningless, had no cultural relevance, and even included his mother's name, which had no connection to anything important to us. I did not want my kid to be ridiculed for something she had no control over. A commenter said I should tell my dad he is delusional for thinking he gets to make such decisions, and that I should cut him off entirely. I wish I could. But my mother's relatives keep pressuring me to stay in touch with him since he is a grandfather now. That same day, after the ceremony, my parents went back to their place.
My husband was visibly angry.
I asked him why, and he told me my father had pulled him aside earlier and insisted that we change our daughter's name.
My husband told him firmly that the name we chose was final.
He reminded him that after all the pain he had caused me and my mother, he had no right to name our baby. Just for context, when my mother was pregnant with me, my father never came to her checkups. She begged him to move somewhere closer to her work, but he refused. She ended up quitting her job due to the stress, and when she did, my father's aunt scolded her and asked why she quit. When my mom explained, the aunt still told her to get back to work. That was when my mom packed up and went to live with my grandparents. My grandfather took care of everything for her during the pregnancy.
When I was born, my paternal grandparents were upset because I was not a boy. My dad was disappointed too.
So you can see why my husband lost his temper and told my father to stay out of our lives. Later that day, I got a message from both my father and his parents saying they were disappointed that we did not let him choose our daughter's name. I ignored the messages. Meanwhile, my son was throwing a toy tea party for his newborn sister.
He invited me, my husband, his siblings, and their grandparents. He was having fun, smiling, showing his toys to the baby. It was a sweet moment. I am not sure if I will post another update, but if something major happens, I might. Some people told me to encourage my mom to finally divorce my dad and stop listening to the pressure from her side of the family. Honestly, my mom is one of the strongest people I know. She worked so hard to raise me. She would have divorced him years ago if it were not for the guilt trips from her relatives who believed staying married was better for me. She stayed not because she wanted to, but because they told her it would affect my relationship with my father. Some even said divorce was not a solution. Now here is the latest update. This might be long. I want to first address the people who insulted my mom's side of the family. I do not agree with that. From the moment my father walked out, they were there. They supported us financially and emotionally. When he came crawling back, many of my mom's relatives told her to divorce him and be done with it. But the elders convinced her otherwise. They said it was a communication issue and she should at least try to work things out. My mom did not want to, but for my sake and for the sake of future grandkids, she tried to patch things up. I made up my mind to completely cut contact with my dad, and before I go any further, I want to say this clearly: please do not say anything bad about my mom's relatives, because they have stood by us and helped us in ways I cannot even explain, and I truly appreciate them for that. This morning, I woke up later than usual, and my mother-in-law asked if I was feeling alright. I told her I was under a lot of stress and that my body was aching after the delivery. She told me to freshen up, said she would take care of the food and my medicine, gave me a warm hug, and let me take my time. After I got ready, I saw my 3-year-old son still half asleep on the floor. The moment he saw me, he tried to run over, almost tripping over himself, but I caught him and he clung to me like he never wanted to let go. We had breakfast together, and that moment felt like something I needed. Before I could fully cut ties with my dad, I sat down with my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and husband to discuss it. My mother-in-law thought maybe I should just limit contact instead of cutting it entirely, so the kids would still know their maternal grandfather, but I told her that even low contact would just make things worse, and she understood. My father-in-law told me it was completely my choice. My husband agreed too. I posted my decision to both sides of the family. My mother's side already knew what we had been through, but I typed out a full explanation for my dad's side. Right after, a few of his relatives called me asking why I was doing this. I calmly told them everything my father had done in the past 20 years. They argued that cutting him off was too extreme, but I told them straight they never warned him, never held him accountable, never supported my mom or me, and if they kept talking to me like I was the problem, I would cut them off too. They did not like that and hung up. A few distant relatives called back later, saying they were sorry and had no idea what we had gone through. They asked if I could forgive them, but I told them I would have to think about it and ended the call. My mom's side completely supported my decision. Last night, I spoke to my mom about divorce. She said she was not officially divorcing him but had left him for good. I asked what happened, and she told me that my dad told her to demand I change our baby girl's name. She refused, and that led to a 2-hour screaming match. My mom packed her bags, told both my dad and his parents they were worthless and a disappointment, and went back to stay in her own apartment. I was genuinely happy to know she finally took a step toward peace. Later, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered, and it was my paternal grandparents. I hung up immediately. They called again. I picked up, and they went off about how wrong I was for going no contact. I reminded them how they disrespected my mom, how they were cruel to her before I was even born, how they always stood behind my father while he ruined things for me and my mother. We argued for about 25 minutes until I finally hung up. I could not deal with it anymore. I just lay on the bed trying to breathe. Another unknown number called me. I ignored it. Then another. And another. After 4 or 5 calls, I got fed up and picked up. It was my father. I was about to hang up, but he spoke in a cold, serious voice saying he wanted to talk. I ignored him and cut the call. He called again. I knew if I did not answer, he would just keep calling. I finally answered, and he told me he was disappointed and said I should not go through with cutting him off. I told him exactly what I had been holding in for years. I told him he was never there for me, not when I was born, not at my birthdays, not when I was bullied at school, not when people asked me where my dad was, not at my engagement, not at my wedding. He said nothing and just hung up. I sat there thinking I should not have picked up that call in the first place. I broke down crying. My husband came in, wrapped his arms around me, tried to calm me down. My mother-in-law heard me and joined us, hugging me and saying everything was going to be okay. My son walked in asking my mother-in-law to change the television channel because he wanted to watch cartoons. She had been watching a drama. When he saw I had been crying, he hugged me tight and asked if I was feeling better. I nodded and sent him back to watch his show. I am better now, writing this, and I have made the decision I am cutting my father out of my life, and he is not going to be part of my children's lives either. I hope I did the right thing. Thank you for hearing me out. Now for the next part, everything blew up again. I thought once I blocked him out, it would be over, but it only got worse. Yesterday evening, I could not stop thinking about whether I made the right decision. My husband suggested we go out to clear our minds, so we went to a restaurant. He tried to talk about school memories, brought up all sorts of topics, and even ordered my favorite food, but nothing really took my mind off the stress. After we ate, we came back home and went to bed. This morning, we were sitting on the balcony talking about old times when he suddenly froze and went pale. He ran downstairs, and I looked over to see who it was. That is when I saw her, my husband's abusive biological mother, standing at the gate, walking toward our home. I went downstairs and saw my husband sitting on the couch completely out of it while my mother-in-law was trying to comfort him. His father, his sister, and his brother were all shouting at his biological mom. My sister-in-law and my brother's wife were trying to keep things under control. Suddenly, the biological mom saw our wedding photo hanging on the wall and marched toward it. She raised her hand, not to point or talk, but to slap me. Just before her hand reached me, my father-in-law grabbed her wrist and yelled at her to get out. She started yelling back at him, demanding answers, and the fight continued. My husband grabbed my hand and pulled me to our room while sobbing. He held me tightly and cried his heart out. He told me stories I had not heard before. Back when he was a kid, his biological mother used to beat both him and his sister. One time, when his sister got her period, his mother hit her so badly she could barely walk. My husband told her to hit him instead. She did, and it was brutal. His sister cried while applying medicine to his wounds. When their father found out about all this, he filed for divorce, got custody of both kids, and later married my current mother-in-law, who already had a son, and they eventually had a daughter together. Now my husband is asleep, and my mother-in-law just called me downstairs urgently. When I went downstairs, I saw the last people I ever wanted to see again. It was my dad, his aunt, and his parents. I shouted at them to get out of the house right away. Then my husband's biological mother looked at my father, thanked him for telling her where to find us, and left. I stood there completely frozen. I could not process what I had just heard. My mother-in-law asked me if I was all right, but I was in shock. The man who had abandoned me and hurt me for years just helped someone dangerous from my husband's past come right into our home and shake everything up. I screamed at my father to leave again. His aunt tried to step in and explain, saying it was a mistake to cut him off and that we should sit down and talk things through. But my sister-in-law stepped in, shouting louder than anyone else, and told them to leave immediately, and warned them that if they ever showed up again, we would get a restraining order. The shouting had gotten so loud that my little boy came downstairs in tears, calling out for me. I picked him up, and right then, my father tried to speak to him. He reached out and tried to take my son from my arms. My son screamed at the top of his lungs, terrified, and I held him tight and rushed him upstairs. I closed the door, held him close, and did everything I could to calm him down. I laid him on the bed and sat beside him, completely overwhelmed. After a while, my mother-in-law came into the room and asked how we were doing. I told her the kids were okay and asked her to please rest. I sat there for a long time, wondering how someone like my father could still find ways to hurt me, even now, even after I made it clear I wanted peace. I do not even know what his goal was. Did he want chaos? Did he want control? I do not know. All I do know is I was scared for my children, for what could happen if they kept having to deal with people like this. I wanted to keep them safe, to keep them away from this kind of madness. I do not know what to do now. I just want peace. I really do. I am crying as I write this.
The mood in the house is heavy, sad, and tense.
The stress is more than I can handle.
I just need some advice from anyone who understands what this feels like.
Someone asked if we could get a restraining order against my father and my husband's biological mother.
My sister-in-law is a lawyer, and she said we might not have a strong enough case yet because we do not have solid evidence of danger or threats from them, so instead we started looking into moving.
Update, August 18th. Hello again, I hope you are all doing well. I wanted to give one more update. We moved.
My father-in-law did not want to go through with the legal process for a restraining order, but he did not want us living under that kind of pressure either. He found a new place in another state. We changed our phone numbers.
The only person who has my new number is my mom.
We moved in, unpacked, and have been settling in.
The neighbors here are kind. They seem like good people.
My husband, who had a severe reaction to the return of his biological mother, has already started therapy, and I have too.
We are trying to heal. I am really sorry I cannot share every detail about everything that happened between then and now.
My father-in-law thought it was better if we kept some things private. But I wanted to say thank you to all of you for being here, for supporting me, for reminding me I was not wrong to want peace, to want safety, and to protect my children.
It means more than I can say.